I'm here to break down Shushi No Kon show. If you're looking for the full performance of the video, check out the brown belt playlist so you can see that. This one will be more of a breakdown of the individual techniques, and since this kata does move around quite a bit, I'm going to do my best to stay within the frame of the camera, so I may shift around a little bit to maintain that. As I go through it, I'm just going to talk out through some of the moves. The form starts with the bow and back like a typical Japanese style bow form, but in this case our toes are out to the side, knees slightly bent. This form came to us as a performance for tournaments, so one of the things that we do differently in this form is we always call it out when we're about to begin. The name of the form is Shushi No Kon show, which is a bow form named after someone called Shushi, and the No Kon show has to do with the bow, and the show version of that meaning that it is a lesser or a smaller version. There are other forms out there, Shushi No Kon and Shushi No Kon, which I do not personally know, but they do exist. This is the Excel version of Shushi No Kon show. So we often start off by somebody announcing to bow and prepare for Shushi. The instructors would say, bow and prepare for Shushi. Students respond, Shushi No Kon show. Bow. And then we come forward, and this is the prepare part. The bow slides to the front just like in combat bow. My hand comes all the way down, and I set. My hand then returns. As I pivot my bow across my body, my right foot is going to turn with the bow. So my bow will cross the center line of my body to clear. And that is the opening. The first command of the form, I take the lower hand and I bring it up behind. That means my bow is going to be at a slight angle. Left hand is in front. As I step back to post into a front stance, I would then execute that straight punch. So again, as I come back from here, I slide back, there's the straight punch. Going straight forward into a horse stance, I'm going to drop to create power as I lean up to strike. I pull back on that side of the bow to block my left leg. At the same time, shifting my weight entirely to the right and extending the bow. This is where some of the bow sliding from combat bow can be helpful. So then I would draw the bow again, striking up from the other side. I turn 180 degrees to the right, strike to the front, come around all the way around with a regular straight punch, and then circle curl. So again, from the bow, Shushi No Kon show. From this point, I'm going to do 3 techniques, all going straight towards the front. I pivot from this front stance to the other front stance. So in an earlier video, we talked about changing stance. That pivot allows me to straighten out and get some power into this. This arm is extended, and just like the opening move, my right hand is in the back. I step together. As I land, sink into that last punch, and then step back to post. My hand will come around, circle, curl. As I bring my feet together forward, my bow crosses my body. I lift up again, hand is on the bow. Step forward to double step strike, draw back to circle curl. And the third one, I make that block across, I come all the way up, and I take just a single step this time, and then circle curl. So while you go through that sequence, you'll notice they're all similar, but they start differently, or end differently. The first one has go directly to the block instead of coming across first. So the first one has direct lift followed by the double step and the return. The second one has the block as well as the lift as well as the double step and block, step back, return. The third one has the block and the lift but does not have the double step. Single step forward and cover. So that is part 2. From there, I've made my block. I'm going to land forward into a horse stance. I backed up for the camera's sake. There's no walking backwards in the middle of the form. Then I slide across just like I did before, and I draw back and thrust. So this looks like that opening part. Instead of just turning and doing an upward strike, now we're going to add a thrust. The way I remember that is when I add a thrust, I also add a step. So once I've made my thrust, I step forward to make my strike up and under, over the top to punch, up on the same side that the bow is on, which is my left, down on that same side, left circle, right circle punch, and circle curl. So again, watch that part because then I'm going to do it again, one other direction and change it on the third. So after I've finished my last strike, circle, curl, step to horse, draw back, thrust. Whenever I thrust, I step forward, down, up on the same side, down again, circle left, circle right, circle curl. Now I'm going to turn towards the back of the room away from the camera for now, but all I'm going to do is allow that to slide and get to that thrust going the other way. I thrust in. Since I thrust, I also step. Make my block up, strike down, left, right, 1, 2. From there, circle and curl. The third one, just like the most of the form, is going to be slightly different. I move forward, return, back. Now my body is going to turn 90 degrees towards the front or towards the camera. There's my upward strike, and then I come down. This one does not have the following up-down sequence. It stops there because it goes directly to the long thrust, which you'll see in a moment. So I'm going to return all the way back to this original first circle curl. 1, 2, back. 1, 2, and back. 1, 2, and straight forward. I make my step. I come back, make my thrust. I'm going to move back for the camera. Stepping all the way in, down, up, down, left, right. Circle, curl. Move, draw back. Thrust, step in, down, up, down, left, right, circle, curl. Forward. Now my body is facing the right side of the room. I draw back, I thrust, I step straight towards the front of the room, and I make that block. That's where I left off. Now the next part, I draw my hand back in the bow and thrust forward with the full extension of the bow. As I bring it back, it slides in. So instead of the up-down part, it goes directly to that thrust. Watch it again. I reach back, thrust, and then draw back. This time, instead of a circle curl, I make a very large broad circle followed by that curl. This hand comes up. My left foot's going to circle over and around and down to a horse stance. My bow lowers to my right, and I punch across. I'm going to show you that again from a different angle. So I was facing forward. Had I come up and made my thrust directly from this side, I draw back. Instead of doing a small circle, this foot steps all the way over, curl, lift, outside crescent, down to horse stance, and punch across. All right, so finish with here. Step, draw, thrust, in, down, up, down, left, right, circle, curl, turn, back, thrust, step, down, up, down, left, right, circle, curl, forward, back, thrust, forward, up, down, big thrust out, draw back, big circle, curl, lift, outside crescent knee, drop down, punch across. Now from here, where we left off, I'm going to come back forward to that strike that's often seen in the Kempo strikes. It's that upward cut or upward block position. I come again for the over-the-top thrust and thrust up. There's my final thrust. Draw the bow back, circle, curl. From there, I return to my shoulder, recover back like in combat bow, hand returns, bow circles to the back. Bow, and just like the opening, we announce the form in a shortened version, Shushi, and then return back. So a lot of common themes in here. We have a lot of horse stance movement where we step into a horse stance and sometimes we drop and come up, sometimes we're shifting. The bow movement that we gained from earlier form combat bow is used quite a bit. So there are times that I'm going to want to thrust out big. There are times that I might want to strike this way or strike this way. So you'll notice as I come down, my bow can shorten or lengthen if I need it to. Depends on how far away my opponent is and what they're attacking me with. The circle curl can be used to disarm. If you block somebody, come around the outside and flick back, that bow can be sent right out of their hand. If not, it can just push their arm out of the way so then you can get to the head. I also noticed that if you twist back, you could strike into the person's hand and get a pretty definite disarm there. So that is a breakdown version of Shushi No Kon. This is for advanced brown belts in our Excel curriculum.